That doesn't look right. Is half the transmission mount missing? Look at this. Today, we're figuring out exactly what Wally built. And there's one thing underneath this car I really wasn't expecting to find. If you're new here, this is my late father-in-law Wally's 1969 Corvette Dream build. And when I started on this car, I also inherited a mystery. Wally knew exactly what he was building. The problem is, he's not here anymore for me to ask him. So I've got boxes of parts, I've got receipts, I've got casting numbers, I've got a whole bunch of clues, and occasionally I've got stuff like that. But today, we're going to try and answer some pretty big questions. Because before I finish building this car, I need to understand what Wally was actually trying to build. And we're starting with the big one, literally. I've been told this is a 540 big block, 540 cubic inches. And depending on what's inside this thing, that's not just a big engine. That could be a monster. There's only one problem. I've never seen anything that actually proves it's a 540. So let's see what we can prove. First thing I wanted was a block casting information because that gives us a starting point. And there's our first answer. This engine started life as a Chevy 454, which creates another question. How the hell did a 454 become a 540? Here's where big block Chevy math starts getting fun. Just because the casting tells me that this started as a 454, it doesn't mean there's only 454 cubic inches in it today. And that's because displacement comes down to two really important measurements: bore and stroke. Bore is basically how wide the cylinder is, and stroke is how far the piston travels up and down. Change those, you change the displacement. Then you've got pistons, crankshaft, connecting rods, the camshaft, and the combination of all of it determines what kind of animal you're actually building. So, could somebody build a 454 base big block into something much larger? Absolutely. Can I stand here today and tell you this is definitely a 540? Absolutely not. We're just going to call it a really nasty big block. But Wally did leave us some clues about what he wanted this motor to do, because those aren't stock iron heads. We've got aftermarket Holley aluminum cylinder heads. We've got 12-point ARP fasteners, and sitting on top, this Team G high-rise intake. Let's get one thing straight. This is not a combination somebody puts together because they're worried about fuel mileage. This thing was meant to breathe, and this thing was meant to make power. And suddenly, the story that this might be a 540 doesn't sound quite as crazy, but I've still got no proof. Now, obviously, if you're going to put a nasty big block in a Corvette, you've got to put something behind it capable of handling it. And I knew this wasn't the original 4-speed transmission. Wally told me he put a 5-speed Tremec in it. So let's find out exactly what it is, take a look at it, and see what we're working with. And this is where today's inspection took a turn. Yeah, that's the thing you saw at the beginning. Look right here. At first glance, I thought crack, but the longer I looked at it, the less I was convinced it was a crack and something more significant. It looks like part of the aluminum mount is completely missing. What I do know is I don't like the way this looks, and before this Corvette sees the road, this is going to get some attention. Here's why I care so much. If what's inside that engine is anywhere close to what I've been told, there's potentially a lot of torque coming through this transmission. Maybe it's a 454, maybe a 468, maybe a 496, maybe it really is a 540. But whatever it is, I don't want all that big block torque depending on someone's science project back here. That's a problem for future Brian. Unfortunately, future Brian is getting closer. You know what? This is the perfect time to stop down and go over the budget, where we're at so far on this 1969 big block build. 26,741 in the engine and, well, that transmission. The cost of cars, $7,400. And so far, parts that have been bought were at $1,250. That does not count all the other parts that I just assume came with the car at one point or another. Putting the total cost, yep. It's a lot. But we've made it this far. So since we're questioning everything underneath this car today, let's keep going, because I want to know exactly what's sending that power to the rear tires. Can't see what any of this says, just so you know. I'll go back through and I'll review the footage. There are the coilovers. But that's obviously not exactly why we're here. The coilovers are cool, but this rear end, based on the stampings on it, what I could find, again, I don't know everything, so I might be completely off base until we go through and get this car in the air and really examine it, do the spin test. What I found is it's a 370 rear end. Does that make sense? All right, we're gonna take a break from playing archaeologist and we're gonna get some work done. It's time to continue working on the wiring inside the car, get things tidied up, and start to, well, continue getting them run to where they need to be. Let's get into it. All right, so that's a cluster I have right here. And look, there's not gonna be a third brake light, but I actually kind of have a plan. Tell me if I'm crazy. It's a 69. There's no third brake light. But what they did have, if you recall, were the fiber optic indicators on the console. So why would I not try and bring those back in a more modern LED version? I say modern like fiber optic isn't, but you know what I'm saying. And have the third brake light run to the console, just so, you know, if it's on, it's on. I know, all right, my brake lights are working. Seems logical. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pull one of these 5 out. We've got a left, a right, a brake, and left, right, left tail park, right rear turn, left rear turn. I'm about to look that up, or talk to someone smarter than me. Left tail park, right rear turn, left rear turn, a third brake, fuel gauge, obviously from the fuel sending unit. Okay, cool. I don't know. Maybe I should leave that third brake in there in case I need a brake light to come on. I am gonna leave it. We're gonna just we're gonna add it to the loom, and if I don't need it, I'll just pull it out of the loom, and we'll do the thing I was gonna do here. All right. Got the loom with some little pigtails coming out. Tried to kind of put them. Granted, it's not completely sealed up, so I can still pull more out, but I'm trying to get them into a spot about where they're going to be as they break off to go to the fuel sending unit or the fuel gauge. As they break off to go, like, you know, with the fuel gauge wire or the third brake light or the left or the right or the turn signals and all that. So that's kind of where I'm at. This wire does split off into 2 and then goes back into, it gets a little funky. So around those areas, I also have a little bit of an opening, so if I need to investigate and see what it is, I can. All right. So now, getting this cleaned up a little bit, figuring out that. Again, I really want this to run along the tunnel. I don't know, though. The more I think about it, it might... The tunnel's going to be the right call, right? Because I'm going to have a console and I can get all this up here. Yeah, that's. I want the carpet. I really want to be able to sculpt that carpet nice. So that, I'm not going to call this done, but I'm going to call this heck of a lot further along than we were 20 minutes ago. And then the rest is all coiled up back there. I got to put it through the hole in the body. That sounds so bad. It's supposed to be there. I gotta put it through there, but for now, that's good how it is. Battery's still disconnected. I like to do that anytime I'm moving wires around, simply because, well, this is fiberglass. There is some metal. I don't know if that's grounded or not to the chassis, but I don't want to risk it if it, God forbid. So battery's disconnected, but whether I go along there or along here, this right here is the play in order to hide this really well. And there's actually that hole there. I wonder if I can get it in there and come out the top here. When I have the roof off next, I might do that. That might be even cleaner. I just want to take one more look under here at this rear mount on the Tremec. Well, what would you do? I mean, it looks like, I mean, it's in there, but there's a lot of power coming out of this big block, so I don't know. I feel like we're going to have to pull this transmission and do some fixing on it. Go ahead, drop in the comments with your thoughts on what we found, didn't find today, as I continue to work towards getting this 69, a big block convertible, back together and back on the road. You want to follow along, go ahead and hit subscribe. We are getting close to where we need to be. I'd really like to hit that 1,000 mark soon. If you're new here, this is all I do. Old Corvettes, and now occasionally a VW sand rail, but that's to help feed the Corvette addiction. We'll get more into that in the next episode. But going to wrap up the 69 for today and for this week. And thank you to everybody who has made it this far with either this video or just the build as a whole. We're going to keep going. Need to kind of regroup after finding what we did in the transmission, and we'll see you on the next one.